Truly, the only thing I know about makeup is that I'm not that fond of it, obviously. I don't need it also. Actually, my mom really, when my friends were wearing makeup in middle school, like eyeliner and mascara, my mom was like, no. And maybe I would sneak and put some mascara on if my friends brought it to school. And maybe my mom caught me a couple of times, but I mean, God bless her. It's fine, because I guess she accomplished her mission. But anywho, I don't know much about makeup, but I do know that it is a department that our industry, the film industry, cannot exist without. A lot of your favorite actors are not going on anybody's screen without makeup, but not just for vanity reasons. Vanity reasons? Okay, I don't know why I did air quotes, because sometimes it is for vanity reasons, but not just because of vanity reasons, but for special effects makeup, like the monsters that you see, or if you see someone engorged with muscles or scarring, whatever it is, those are extremely talented makeup artists. And today I have Mr. Carl Fullerton, which I hesitated to say his full name because he likes to be called Fully, but Mr. Carl, as I call him. I recently met him on a film that I was working on, and he is one of the kindest men I have met in this industry, and he has been in this industry for a good amount of time. Not only were you nominated for 2 Academy Awards, but you have also worked on, and I'm looking at my little notebook here, you have also worked on some pretty remarkable films. And I'll just list a few. Most recently, The Equalizer 3. And then you have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Book of Eli, Beloved, which is a book that I had to read in high school. I think I was maybe in 9th or 10th grade. We had to do this whole breakdown of that book. So when I saw the
now you're going to put me in a position where I want to ask you questions.
Well, you can ask me questions. That's fine.
Right. The movie as compare the movie, compare and contrast the movie to the book.
From what I can remember, I don't think I would have been able to appreciate the movie without having the knowledge of the book. So we got to learn about the makeup of the character. And what I mean is, like, I know one character's name was Seta, but now I can't remember if that was
right. I'm leading the witness here.
Okay.
I found the book to be more approachable than the film.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so when I saw, for instance, when Beloved was the child, whatever Oprah's character was, when I saw that water break, learning about it in high school, what that meant when she saw Beloved, I would not have gotten that in the way that I got it. So I do think it was more digestible, but still just as jarring when you break it down the way that my teacher at the time had us to do it. So you did Beloved, Goodfellas, Glory, and The Wiz.
The Wiz.
How was
on down with Michael Jackson?
Yes, exactly. What was that like?
That was a wonderful experience to be on stage and watch that being made. I was disappointed with the film because it did not give the viewer even close to the experience of being on the sound stages and watching it. It was incredible. The colors were so vibrant. The cast was so amazing. That certainly translated, but having having been there, it did not do the same thing for me
Yeah.
as being there as watching the film.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed. I'm sorry to say, and I learned many life lessons as a young man by just being on that set and watch people deal with other people.
How old were you on that set?
I was 25, 26 or something.
Oh,
yeah.
You were already working on something. Well, was that considered a big production then?
Oh, yeah, that was, again, to my recall, that was one of the, it was when they opened the so-called Big House again, Kaufman Astoria Studio in Astoria. That, I believe, was the first production back in there, or certainly one of the first. It was huge at that time. I had worked on, I think, a couple of smaller independent films in New York, or probably in Canada as well.
Okay, so going back a little bit, since you kind of gave us a brief history of how you grew up, where you grew up, what the time was like, because you were born in, when you say 1948?
48. Yeah.
My Lord, my God, look at you! You're still out there.
If I shaved, I might look 73.
You look good. You look real suave with that.
Sweet talk me. There's no need for that.
Oh no, I'm being serious. Actually, he looks suave. But I would like to know. I can imagine that. Did you see a lot of men as makeup artists during that time? Basically, how did you even get the notion that you could do something like that?
I was in college at Towson State University.
Okay.
And I was going to be a high school English and drama teacher.
Okay.
Towards, I don't know, one of my latter semesters, I took a makeup course. I was always kind of fascinated with it. I used to walk about 1.5 miles to pick up a magazine, or a so-called periodical of Famous Monsters magazine.
Okay.
And I would get that and pour through it and try to figure out how things were done. So I had an interest, and I would stay up very late on a Saturday night. As I recall, horror films used to come on very late at night. I never could get sleepover friends to stay up with me just for the fun of it. They would always go to sleep, and I would watch Frankenstein, Dracula, Werewolf, all those movies, and was just fascinated, and became really enthralled with, I think it was a Kirk Douglas movie called Man of a Thousand Faces, or Lon Chaney, or one of those. And there was one film, I believe, I'm referring to the Kirk Douglas film, where he goes through the whole film as different characters. And at the end, I believe he takes off his makeup, and you see who is under it. And I went, wow, that's really great. So I had this opportunity to take, as part of an undergraduate, a makeup course. And I ended up as taking postgraduate courses. I was going to get a master's in education. At the same time, I was offered the opportunity to assistant teach, which meant basically teach a makeup course at the university I was going to.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple of months, I was persistent in making phone calls to NBC TV in New York, to their makeup department, having read an article on Little Big Man, where Dick Smith, who did the makeup for Little Big Man on Dustin Hoffman, spoke about his time at NBC and how apprenticeships were offered at that time, no longer. So again, circling back, I would make phone calls frequently, annoying phone calls, and one of the folks there, that the desk receptionist, would always say, there's no hope for you, kid. Go away.
They were just bitter.
But I was persistent, and finally I was able to get the right person on the phone, who was the person that did all the scheduling. And she said, "Oh, if you're going to be in New York, well, we will interview you if you like. And because we have an apprentice that is just finishing up." I said, "Terrific, I'll be there this afternoon." And they scheduled an appointment for me, and I came up for one, and I had to come back for another, which was okay. And then they told me to pack my toothbrush, and I was able to get 18-month, I think it was, apprentice at New York, at Rockefeller Center, NBC TV in New York. Yes, for which I am very, very grateful.
Yeah.
At least at that time, I think it's changed considerably.
Did you miss teaching at all?
Are you kidding? Let me tell you a little story about that. I saw people like me out there, and I was wondering what the heck I can do to help them.
Yeah.
So they don't go through a similar struggle.
Yeah.
So I make an appointment with the head of the English department. She is an elderly, younger than I am now, woman. Knock on the door, go into her office, and I say to her exactly what I'm saying to you. I see students out there that remind me of myself. They're struggling.
Yeah.
Reading, they cannot even write a 3-sentence paragraph.
Oh, wow.
Is there a primer? Is there a Dick and Jane book I can go to get some help in helping them? I'll never forget this. She turned around and looked at me with this, I don't even know how to describe it. She turned around and looked at me and said, "There is nothing we can do with these students." My brain clicked, I'm in the wrong spot. I will either be forced out of here or I will have to leave. So this is not for me.
I had an experience with a professor. This is actually after I graduated, and a professor had called and asked or emailed a group of the alumnus, or however, I don't know if it's alumni, alumnus, alumna, whatever it is.
I understand you.
Yes. She had emailed us and asked if we would help with some of the student films. And so I told her that I would, because it was just a weekend. And I remember going to the screening for that film, and there was one of the films basically had a black man who was a robber, and then everybody else in the cast was white. And someone asked why it was that way, and she just, the students, because they were asking the students why they chose to cast that way. And they basically said, well, for lighting purposes or something like that. And I said something, I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we have all of you all have all of the resources you need. And so then the professor who contacted us, she reached out to me via email, and she was like, basically trying to explain why she instructed the students to cast based on lighting, or it was a bizarre reason. And I was like, but you're our educator. You're supposed to push us to find solutions to these things.
Right.
But just throw them away. And that was so disheartening to me, because those students, they didn't know, like you don't really know that you can speak up against certain things, or that you can choose a different path. And who knows if they would have had that same mentality going forward in their careers. Like, these could be your directors, producers, and then the industry ends up the way that it is. It's changing. But so I had a similar experience in that. Were you more interested in special effects or glamour, or just makeup in general? Because I know nothing about makeup. I just want you to know. I've been using the same mascara for like 2 years. I know that's
Well, it looks like it's working.
okay.
To circle back to my original interest, yes, it was what I'll call shape-shifting, changing someone's appearance. That was my first interest, and why I was always watching all of those horror films, because that was a big part of them. And also learning the background and, you know, the history of people like Lon Chaney, and what other actors would do with their face to change their appearance. So yes, my first driving effort was in special makeup effects, and I did quite a bit of that. If you check my resume early on. And found that somewhat frustrating after a while. Directors, I'm comfortable saying few of them really know what they want. Even after you have a discussion with them, many of them, some of them will change their mind on the day of the shoot, and here you prepared something, and they want something somewhat different or whatever. And so the tension, anxiety is incredible. At least for me it was. I have met people in this field that go, to hell with it. You know, I have what I have. They don't like it, I'll go home. That's tough for me to do. You know, it's my training, the way I was brought up, I guess. You know, you feel personally responsible and you want it to be the best. Otherwise you wouldn't be there in the first place. So
exactly. Has there been a time where you have had to speak up and say no to something that they might want changed on the day? That's just
I'll go way back to a commercial I was working on, and this has to do with safety. I've had a couple of instances like that early on in my career, when I would be the one digging down into the research of what was harmful and what is not so harmful. And would open my mouth then with the people who hired me. But moving forward to this commercial, this is actually funny, at least to me. Doing a soap commercial for babies. So they have a green room of babies, and we're out on the stage, and there's a little tub, and the product I will not name, but the little child is in the tub, and they have them all lathered up, and I notice the kid's breaking out in a rash. So
on the spot. Producer comes over and goes, where's makeup? Get makeup in to cover these
rash.
Mm-mm.
So the director comes over to me because I'm standing very close, and says, the producer, not him, the producer wants you to come over and cover the rash. And I said, I'm not doing that. The kid is having a rash to the reaction. That's not my responsibility.
Right.
And the director breaks out laughing, and he walks over and he says to the producer, the makeup guy over there says he's not going to cover the rash.
Right.
They did not fire me. They could have, I guess, but
And you could have sued.
I've got to eat. You've got to eat. We all have to eat. Let's do the right thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's do the right thing and all go home.
Yeah. Alive, I guess.
Yeah.
Was your family, so your parents mainly, were they really supportive of you when you decided to pursue this with your life?
They didn't know what the hell I was into. They were just happy that I was going to college.
Mm.
Yeah.
What did your parents do to provide for you all?
They both had government jobs. My mother worked for the National Labor Relations Board, which I think the GOP is now trying to get rid of. Yeah, we need to all pay attention. My father had a security job at that time, I think it was Fort Meade. He worked for the National Security Agency. He was basically a telephone guy fixing communication within the secret world.
Okay. So he was CIA, is what you're trying to tell me?
No, he was far from CIA. He was the guy that fixed the telephone for the CIA and the FBI, or actually it's, I guess, less heard of, National Security Agency, whatever the hell that means these days, especially.
So where did this creative, I guess, drive come from in you? Did you have anyone else in your family, or it was just something that was innate? You didn't see it around you, but you still wanted to pursue it?
Well, I think there are always creative people around us. I was fortunate enough to know that when I looked over my shoulder, I had parental support financially.
What has been one of your most memorable or most exciting moments, or you can do both, within the industry?
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, for instance, for me, what makes a production really enjoyable is it's the people that work. Sir?
A good script and a hell of a good cast.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate with both of those many, many times.
Yes, you have. If you had to empower someone coming up, because I know you might not want to teach per se anymore, but if you could empower someone who might be interested in the makeup department and special effects makeup, or just in general in the industry, how would you empower them?
That's a tough question. It depends on I would say, pursue your specific interest, find a mentor, someone that is doing well in this business, and see if you can get advice from them, because it will change, and also trust your own instincts.
Yes.
And be appreciative of any help that you do get. Acknowledge that help. Acknowledge and be grateful.
Yeah. I always say that we are kind of the people who work within this industry are kind of the outcasts of the world. So then when we get here into doing the creative things that people get to watch on TV, but don't know the struggle of getting those things made, that we get to be somebody almost. So it's nice to feel appreciated with that. Would you ever consider mentoring?
I don't know at my age. I've always been open as best I can be to anyone, seeking a question and answer period, or I don't want to call it advice, but for lack of a better word, advice.
Yeah.
But there are so many people ahead of me now. At one time, I was close to the vanguard or the forefront. I'm no longer there anymore.
You have accomplished so much, and I just want to know, has it cost you anything, or what has it cost you to get to where you are in this industry? Because it takes something, I know.
Can't answer that.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Well, I know it has, because when I first got into this industry, I knew immediately. I was a cast driver, and I was working like 21, 22 hours a day.
Yep.
And I was having a great time, but then I was like, oh, this place will take me out if I am not careful.
It can kill you if you're not careful.
Exactly. So I understand what it's taken you, and I have not
kill relationships.
Right. It does, and it has.
Oh, I see it all around me. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, that you have that family to support. So I learned it early on, though, and I'm happy I have, and that takes a lot of faith for me, and knowing who my source is, in order to really say one day, because I was like sick, and I was just exhausted, and I've not been in the industry not even a tenth of how long you've been in. And I said, no, I have to choose differently, because I actually do want a life, and this is make believe at the end of the day. So I understand what that is. So I appreciate you for all of the work you've done. And I have just one last question. Do you think you'll
Let
ever
me interject a thought?
Absolutely.
Please.
Yes.
I was working with an actor by the name of Brian Brown on a film called FX. Okay. And I was close enough to overhear him talking to, it was either his agent or his wife or someone close to him. And they were talking about him taking time off. And he said, I'm taking all of next year off. And there was pushback. I didn't hear the pushback, but there was pushback. And he said, okay, tell me this. Name 3 good films you saw last year. Crickets on the other end of the phone. Not that there were not 3 good films, but the guy couldn't come up with them that quick. So he said, case in point, I'm taking next year off. Yep,
exactly. And it's so necessary. I remember I did that I was like, I'm taking next month. I haven't chosen a year. And do you think you'll ever retire?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you've given a lot of your life. So you have to. I'm going to have to come visit you in North Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime. It's a wonderful place to be, because we are on the water.
Yes,
and, sir. I'm looking past you at the birds flying out over the water.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. Fully. I don't know why I say Mr. Thank you, Fully,
for
good. This with
Thank
me.
you. Bye for now.
All right.